Hello, my name is Robert Smith. I'd like to speak with you tonight about Charles A. Beard as part of the History 502 course at Liberty University, Historiography. Charles Beard was an American historian in the early to mid-20th century. He was a professor at Columbia University from 1904 to 1917 and is best known as a progressive historian. Beard resigned from Columbia University during World War I for his perceived conflict with the university over its views on the war, with Beard basically challenging the school's lack of support for what he called a just war against the German Empire. Beard is known as a prolific writer. David Noble, in his book review of Ellen Noir's Charles A. Beard, an Intellectual Biography, notes that Beard was the author of 42 books, co-author of many more books, as well as the author of hundreds of articles and book reviews. Moreover, Beard himself has been the subject of many books about his own scholarship and thought. His most significant work is titled An Economic Interpretation of the Constitution of the United States in 1913. After leaving Columbia, Beard did not return to academia, but became involved in public administration and was described by Keith Snyder as playing a leading role in the professionalization of public administration in the early 1900s, where he brought a sense of pragmatism which influenced the field in its early years. That's at page 132. Snyder notes two influences upon Beard were his progressivism, which is described as a turn-of-the-century reaction against corruption, political excess, and social injustice, which was inspired by William Jennings Bryan, among others. And secondly, his influence was his mentor, Frank Johnson Goodnow, during his graduate studies at Columbia University, and that's at pages 132 to 133. Underscoring Beard's progressivism of the 20th century, Snyder notes that Beard believed American institutions were based on, quote, political and economic conditions prevailing at the time of their creation, unquote, and that's at page 133, quoting Beard in American Government and Politics from 1919 at page 3. In that regard, Beard established and directed in 1911 the Training School for Public Service at the New York Bureau of Municipal Research, where he helped create the modern basis for the Masters in Public Administration, and that's at Goodsell, page 2. Beard was similarly invited to establish an institute by the mayor of Tokyo, Japan. However, for the purposes of my research, Beard's significance rests in legal historiography. In Charles A. Beard and Progressive Legal Historiography, G. Edward White explores the 100th anniversary of an economic interpretation of the Constitution of the United States. White begins by noting the controversy sparked by the work, including protests from former President Howard Taft and then publisher Warren G. Harding, and that's at page 349. Beard presented an economic model of the Constitution and the framers, which has been criticized and compared to Marxist history. White indicates that Beard's economic or progressive approach was shared by scholars at least through the 1960s, and that's at page 350. White details the fallout of Beard's approach by Richard Hofstadter, who indicated that Beard's treatment of the revolution in essentially economic terms was too simplistic, and that's at page 351. For Hofstadter, the central events in the founders' experience was the revolution itself in all of its aspects. White indicates that Hofstadter's critique followed other prominent historians' rejection of Beard's analysis, including Bernard Bailyn and Gordon Wood, and Wood expressed the opinion that that Beard's limitations were so crude that no further time should be spent on it, and that's at page 352 to 353. White establishes 5 elements of progressive historiography. 1, a characterization of American history as a clash between antagonistic classes or interests. 2, a conception of judicially driven ideology decision-making with outcome interest. 3, a skeptical view of law and as an authoritative body of independent rules. 4, a view that law mirrors social conditions and contexts. And 5, a belief that the judicial legal rhetoric is designed to obscure rather than illuminate the true bases for decisions, requiring the meaning of a decision to be found elsewhere, such as the political, social, or economic consequences of the officials who made the determinations. The progressive narrative was considered, quote unquote, relentlessly modernist in its starting point, which is to say that it presupposed humans would create laws and policies designed to promote their own self-interest. Thus, for Beard, the framers' focus was to promote their own self-interest. However, he does not provide conclusions to support those arguments. Rather, he simply asserts a conflict between the personality and the realty interests and demonstrates that they voted in alignment with their respective positions. And that's at page 358. For White, the importance of Beard's work was that it brought an interest in constitutional history back from a sense of mythology to realistic motivations regarding real people. White makes one further point about progressive historians, that they saw themselves as, quote, levelers, unquote, or favoring class conflicts or policies which favored the poorer classes over the wealthier ones, and that's at page 362. Over time, leveling seems to have prevailed between World War I and the Great Society, and that's at page 363. So the progressive historians were not only modernists, but also levelers, which account for their popularity through the decades. However, by the 1960s, it was clear that progressive positions reflected a viewpoint consistent with 20th century views, but not reflective of 18th century views. And that's at page 365. Thank you for listening, and have a happy Thanksgiving.